The bandwidth for this episode of Gun Guy Radio is sponsored by the Firearms Radio Network. www.firearmsradio.tv.
Welcome to episode 85 of Gun Guy Radio. This is the podcast that shines a positive light on the firearms lifestyle. I'm your host, Jake Challand, and this is your weekly dose of positive firearms talk without the politics. Well, how you doing this week? We have a great show lined up. We talked with Chad Danielson, the shooting sports coordinator at the University of Wisconsin Superior, about collegiate shooting programs. So can't wait to get to the main topic. But first, we have a few announcements. A big announcement here. We welcome the guys from the WeLikeShooting.com gun and gear review site. So they put together their own little Guns, Gear, and Gadgets podcast, and we are thrilled to have them on the Firearms Radio Network. You can check their show out at WeLikeShootingPodcast.com. They already have 3 episodes out. Really good stuff. Really enjoy it. So shout out to them for putting together such good content right off the bat. I've been working a lot with Sean and Savage over there, and Aaron, and they have a great team already put together. So it's a really an honor to have them on the network. So thank you guys, and go check out WeLikeShootingPodcast.com, or just search for We Like Shooting in iTunes. It's already on the iTunes store. So also remember to check out youtube.com/firearmsradio. That's where you can catch all the live Google Hangouts we've been doing lately. For this week in Guns, we just had a great show. We had Peter Palma, Braden from the Big and Wild radio show. Braden was on. Let's see here. Ryan from the Handgun podcast, and Kirsten Weiss, who is a precision Olympic runner-up, and one of the personalities that you see on the Truth About Guns. So it was really a lot of fun having them on and talking with them. Also, shout-outs to Brownell's Crossman Corporation, that makes the air guns and airsoft, and to CompTech Holsters for all sending some items on over for review. So I can't wait to carve out some time to start reviewing these for the upcoming Firearms Insider, and tell you more about that in a little bit. But we're actually looking for some podcast hosts here on the Firearms Radio Network. So if you ever aspire to be a podcaster and didn't quite know how to get started, well, maybe we have a place for you. We're looking for podcast hosts who would like to host the upcoming Firearms Insider podcast. So this is going to be a gun, gear, reviews, interviews. You can focus on upcoming new products. It's all centralized around the Firearms Insider community site. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in doing, if that sounds like something you're might be enthused about doing, and if you'd like to join the FRN team, then I'm going to go ahead and have you put together a demo tape. That's right, a demo tape like you did in the 80s when you had a rock band in high school. A tape. Never mind. So put together a demo of just recording maybe an intro and like a little segment of a show. Maybe it doesn't have to be a whole show, just a little part, and send that on over, and I'll check it out. So to host this podcast, you must be able to produce a weekly show, create all the content on your own, and be able to edit and post the show on your own. Of course, we can walk you through the process of posting the show and even a little bit of editing A lot of us use the free editor Audacity, so you can download that for free and play around with it. And there's tons of YouTube videos. If you don't know how to edit, don't worry about it. You can just look at the YouTube tutorials, and that should give you enough information to get going. But yeah, I'd love to check out any demos that you send in. You can send them to jake@firearmsradio.tv. And I'm also looking to replace myself on the AR-15 podcast. I've got too many irons in the fire, and I'm about ready to collapse. So if you think you might be interested in talking AR-15s with Reed or with any other personalities on the network that might lend a hand, just also put together a demo tape and send it on over to jake@firearmsradio.tv. So again, this is a position where you need to produce a weekly show, create all the content, and also talk about all things AR-15 related. And also do interviews. That's something that Reed and I really never got off the ground, was doing a lot of interviews, but that's something that I would like to see that show start incorporating. Now, I'm going to still be on it for a little while until we make a transition. I want to make a smooth transition on it. Send those demos on over, and we'll take a listen. And so... like I mentioned, the Firearms Insider community will launch October 15th. So that's in just about a month, October 15th. So the Firearms Insider community is going to have, gun and gear reviews, and I'm doing them a little bit different from any other gun sites that, at least that I've seen. Maybe some do it like this. I just haven't come across them. But we're going to have a scoring system and actually give guns and gear a 10-point score. And we're going to go over about 8 different points of the product and give you that 10-point score. But then, it's a community site, so then you can go on and say, well, Jake, I really think, the high point deserves a 10 out of 10. So you can leave it a 10 out of 10 instead of whatever I left for it. And that way, as a community, you can review different guns and different gear, and we'll have a much better sample of consumers, the public perceives that product as a whole. That way it's not just my opinion, and it's not just a sugar-coated gun magazine opinion of, yeah, this is great too. All the everything this company does is great. Which luckily for the firearms industry is usually true. I mean, there are a lot of great companies out there and a lot of great products. But there's also a lot of sugar coating going on, especially in the gun magazines. Especially, it seems like more so on ones that buy big advertisements get maybe some more reviews. But so I'm looking to just have a real honest perspective on their reviews, and I'm very excited to get this going. But this is where you come in. You can help us actually raise some funds, because I would like to prepay the hosting for this site for a year, so that I can get it up off the ground here in a month and not have to worry about paying that bill, and just worry about creating great content, creating reviews, mini podcast episodes, reviews, blog posts, and everyone on the Firearms Radio Network, when they have time, or if they have time, they're going to contribute to it. Mike, I haven't announced this yet, but Mike from the God and Guns podcast is coming on over, and he's taking leave of the Gun and Gods podcast to become the director of the Firearms Insider, because it's a big job. So I'm really grateful to have Mike over there running the whole Firearms Insider, and as well as other great people. New intern Anthony is going to be playing a key role, as well as new intern Jared. as well as many other people I'm forgetting. But luckily we have all the big positions filled, except for the podcast host. So that's only one. It doesn't even have to launch the 15th with the rest of the site, because the main focus of the Firearms Insider is not the podcast. It's the community. It's the, talking about, the things we love together and having a say in it. So you can, help us raise, I'm shooting for $1,000 in 4 weeks to allow us to prepay the hosting for a year, and that's a year of Flex VPS hosting for those nerds out there. And it also pays for the media hosting for that podcast for a year, and hopefully any other tiny incidentals that come up. But it's definitely not all the expenses, but at least to get the hosting prepaid would be awesome for this one site. You can donate by going to firearmsradio.tv/donate, and I can't tell you how much we would appreciate any contribution from $5. If everyone only gave $1, no, anything it would help. So shooting for $1,000 in 4 weeks. So if you like what the Firearms Radio Network is doing so far, if you think we provide value, then I think you can foresee that this Firearms Insider site is going to be pretty awesome. It may even be bigger and better than the Firearms Radio Network. So you can go to firearmsradio.tv/donate to contribute. Well, welcome to the main topic. I have a special guest with me tonight, Chad Danielson, who is really involved in collegiate shooting sports at the University of Wisconsin. You're the shooting sports coordinator. Hey, Chad, How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Great. Well, I'm glad you could come on the program. So, I'll give a little backstory to the listeners, viewers about Chad. So you started, you began as a junior rifle competitor in '89 and was a member of the 1990 four-man team. In '92, you were also a member of a championship team. So several years there, you successfully competed. And then jump ahead to 2002, and that's when you became the University of Wisconsin Superior's shooting sports coordinator and range director, and also the UWS Shooting Sports Association club advisor, the UWS rifle team head coach, and Superior junior team head coach. Boy, did I catch everything? No, there's more. Minnesota and Rifle Revolver Association State Junior Programs Director. Wow, that's a short title.
Yeah.
Well, so Chad, let's let listeners, viewers get to know you a little bit. Where and when did you start shooting?
I grew up with a very avid outdoors father. I was walking behind grouse hunting before I was old enough to even carry or hunt and stuff. And then upon turning like 12, enrolled in our Wisconsin hunter safety program to be able to legally start hunting and stuff. And just out of happenstance, I can remember my father saying, too bad there isn't like a junior shooting program like you see in 4-H or something locally. Well, it happened that there was, and I got involved with that program. And that was the Superior Junior Rifle Club at the time. Spent about a year on what was considered the club, kind of learning the sport, learning safety and stuff like that. And then after that year, moved to team, and that was in that 89 area or so where I started actually competing. And then from that point on, I think that was probably the last time I ever played any mainstream sports. It was like, I'm going to be a shooter. It was that sport that, the kids eventually pick one and gravitate to, and that's what they become. And I was in that group that was going to end up a shooter. And so I ended up shooting competitively junior-wise all through junior high and high school, and then basically ending out in high school and then family kicks in and, life and stuff like that. So.
Oh, very cool. So how did you get started instructing then? So we have, about a 10-year time period there. So did you get a regular job or do you still have a regular job and do this on the side? How does that work?
Yeah, what kind of ended up happening is the Superior Junior Rifle Club that I shot with actually shot in the University of Wisconsin Superior's range. It existed back then and stuff too. I ended up getting hired onto the University of Wisconsin Superior's campus police department. And so I stayed kind of in touch with the program and the guy that was my coach and running the program and stuff. And how the transition happened was in 2002, he actually passed away. And so the university knew I had a tie to the program as a junior, and I kind of came up through the program. And they asked me, would you be willing to take it over because he had passed away, and kind of continue to see things through? And I jumped at the chance.
So you basically never left. You were at least on campus the whole time. Yeah,
I was always on campus, so I always kind of knew what the program was doing and stuff. And I never truly left competing. I mean, I ended up competing less just because of job and family and stuff like that. But then once 2002 rolled around and I took the program over, I actually ended up getting heavier back into my own competing and stuff.
That's right, because I forgot to mention, you still compete in small bore rifle prone competitions and high power rifle long range. Yep.
So once I started kind of running the junior program again and the university program, it kind of renewed my passion to still shoot, so I ended up going into those prone competitions and getting back into it.
Awesome. So let's jump back a little bit. What exactly is collegiate shooting?
Collegiate shooting can be one of a couple different types of programs. A college can have, or a university, however you want to call it, they can have either one type of program or they can have all three of these. It can be an educational type program where it's a class for credit, where a university student can basically enroll in the class and they'll get 1 or 2 credits for it. A lot of times that educational program is kind of like out of the PE department, the physical education department or something, so they get a physical education credit. The other side,
that'd be a lot more fun than like badminton or something.
Yeah, no kidding. One of the other of the three is club sports. A lot of universities have those sports that they're not a varsity sport, but it's more organized than just pickup games. They have a coach. They actually do compete against other colleges. A lot of times that's called intercollegiate competition. So that's another part of shooting that a college can have. And then they can have if you want to call it the big time, the NCAA collegiate competition. That's where the sport on campus is actually a varsity sport. If the college has got scholarships, that's where juniors coming out of junior programs, can sometimes get a percentage of a scholarship to go to that school and actually shoot for that school, just like football programs and stuff would have. So a college can have either just one of them, or some of them have all three of those aspects. A lot of times that college club aspect of it is made up of shooters that maybe didn't make the varsity team, but they still want to shoot and compete and stuff. Our program at Superior actually has the educational portion of it, which is I teach I teach 2 basic classes each semester. One's a basic rifles, marksmanship, and safety class. The other one in the same semester is a basic pistols, which is just, it's a basic class. It's pistols and rifles, just safety, and then we get into a little bit of marksmanship. I always say in the class, I'm not going to turn anybody into a competitive shooter in a semester. And then we have the club intercollegiate rifle team too. So we have those 2 aspects. We're just not NCAA.
Okay, yeah, that surprised me actually when I was doing some research for this. That the NCAA has a fairly big role in collegiate shooting, and you can look at leaderboards online just like basketball almost.
Yep. I mean, if you're in the sport and you kind of know where to look online and stuff, you can actually follow collegiate teams just like big football fans follow their favorite college team football wise.
So, is this a fairly regional type of phenomenon? Is it more of the central U.S.? Do you see many collegiate shooting programs on the East or the West Coast?
Well, I actually know some of the numbers. To answer that question, we in Wisconsin has got 5. We've got 5 programs through the state. The only other one that I know of with us is Oshkosh down southern Wisconsin. They're also a intercollegiate competition team. We actually compete with them, every year. You there in Illinois, there's 6 of them there. I don't know which ones
You're
are
kidding
which.
me. In Illinois, there's no guns in Illinois. That's crazy talk.
Some of them might be just that educational-based, program and stuff. A lot of the ones that have it listed as educational-based programs, if you get into looking what they actually are, is their ROTC programs.
Okay.
They're tied into their ROTC program, and they have a class to where those particular people in that program are going through that and stuff. Pennsylvania actually, I think, has got the most. The last time I looked at, like 12 programs throughout their state. And New York has got 10.
Wow.
So and those numbers actually surprised me a little bit the last time I looked.
Well, I saw on one of these websites that we'll have listed as resources, I think it was the NRA competitive shooting site. So there's almost 300 collegiate and university level shooting programs.
Yeah. That sounds about right.
Okay.
Like I said, it would be different type of programs and stuff, but as a total number, that wouldn't surprise me.
Now, what kinds of students do you see participating in this?
I actually get, in our program, a lot of them that come from that avid hunter background and stuff. I'm usually, as far as the team's shooting goes and stuff, there's a little bit of commitment to that program and stuff. There's practices 2 nights a week and stuff like that. So you got to have the want to do that. But usually those students that usually stick with it, they've come from a background of firearms and stuff, so they've got some experience and stuff. My classes that I teach for a credit, the 2 major groups that I see in class are actually female students and foreign exchange students.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. What's the male to female ratio?
I want to say, like in class.
Yeah.
In class, it's pretty even. I think the females probably outnumber the males a little bit as far as the class goes.
Why do you think that is? Why?
I really don't. I don't know. I mean, I know why the classes sometimes have a high number of foreign exchange students, because I usually get a chance to talk to them, off to the side or after class or something. And I've asked several of them, why did you take the class? What drew you to the class? And a lot of the students, a good percentage of those students, actually give me the answer of where we come from. We can't have firearms. We can't touch. We can't. For most of them, it's the first time they've ever picked up a firearm. So it's something that they're not going to be able to do after they're done at school here, as an exchange student.
Right. Well, that's pretty interesting. What about competitors? What's the male to female ratio for teams?
Our team last year, I think, was right on 4-4. I think I had 4 females and 4 males. In our sport, they actually don't separate the competitions. the males compete against the females score wise. And if you ask any instructor, precision rifle instructor or college coach, they'll often tell you that the females can often outshoot the males.
I won't tell you how good my wife shoots, but moving on. Do they do it for fun, for credits, for Olympic aspirations, or is there a good mixture there?
Yeah, I think most of them are doing it as like an extracurricular activity. I don't think any of the club intercollegiate competitors, have Olympic aspirations or anything. And then obviously the class enrollment is all for credit. So there's always a mix.
Well, now back to the shooting teams. Do you see these students kind of bond like you see in other sports? Do they hang out even when they're not shooting? Yep,
exactly. I mean, most definitely. I mean, it's on our campus. You got the hockey team that hangs out with the hockey team, and you've got the volleyball team that hangs out with the volleyball team. And even though we're intercollegiate and at the club level, our shooters hang out with our shooters.
So how many intercollegiate events do you shoot a year as a team?
Well, as a club team and as what we call a club category team, not under the NCAA rules and regulations and stuff like that, we're a little more able to kind of set schedule and do that, with other teams if they want to travel and stuff to us or us to them. We try to shoot at least a couple travel matches every year. Probably the easiest travel match for us that we picked up starting last year was going to North Dakota State University. And it's a short time span for travel and stuff like that. But we're a member of what's called the Western Intercollegiate Rifle Conference, which is a conference that was created just for the intercollegiate club purpose. So the clubs that didn't fall under NCAA had an avenue for competition and stuff. And how that conference actually works is we shoot what is called postal tournaments, through the school year, which is basically where you shoot the targets at your home range, and then you send them into a conference office, and they're scored there, and then things get tallied up through the office.
I'm glad you clear that up, because when some people say postal and shooting,
yeah, it doesn't mesh. But we do that through October, November, December, and January, and then there's always what we call a shoulder-to-shoulder match then scheduled as the conference championship, and typically you'll see that rotate through from one school one year to another school the next year and stuff. The only thing with the championship is sometimes it's only a handful of schools that have the facility to be able to host, 7, 8, 9 teams showing up, with 8 shooters each and stuff. Like our range facility, it's a small facility. We have 7 firing points. So for us to run that championship, it'd take 4 days versus, a team that can put 20 people on the line at once.
So is that range actually on your campus?
It is. Yep. It's actually, a lot of people find it amazing. It's actually inside our administrative building, our main administrative building. It's actually in the lower level basement area of the building. But from what I understand, I mean, that's where I started shooting in '89, as a 12, 13-year-old. But from what I understand, there were eras of shooters before me that grew up down there too, and it's amazing. I'll run into guys that are 60 years old now saying they shot down there when they were a kid. And as I looked into a little bit of the history of the range, it actually has been told to me that it was initially tied to an ROTC program too, but now there's just not that program, and now it's more of a competitive program and an educational program.
Well, a lot of universities would have facilities or at least places to transform into a range because, if they dated back to the 60s at least, they're going to have old fallout shelters and stuff.
Yep.
Because I know here in Northern Illinois at the Northern Illinois University where my wife went to school, we used to, sneak around there, and there's all kinds of big old fallout shelters under some of these old school or old dorms or old classrooms.
Yeah, what I was told also about like our range area and stuff, and like the facility, the corner of the building that it's in and stuff, is that at one point years ago it was, I don't know how many lane bowling alley. Now I don't know if I've never been able to confirm that.
Right, you get all kinds of rumors going around.
Yeah, especially with something that's been around, that long.
That's the haunted dorm. That building used to have a swimming pool upstairs, and
yeah, you just never know what unless you were there, you don't know what the truth actually is.
Right. Well, can you describe in a little bit of detail the most popular discipline, like? What a shooter actually shoots at, what their type of firearm or air gun. Kind of walk me through that because when you see pictures of collegiate shooting, what they're using is pretty foreign to me.
Yeah, I can't knowledgeably talk too much about like the shotgun and the pistol aspect of it because that's not part of the program, where some, like I was saying before, if you look up some of these colleges, they might be a competitive college, but they might be a shotgun competitive college.
Sure, and like skeet or sporting clays, I guess that would be the most relatable for a lot of people. But and our program is precision small bore and air rifle. Usually in intercollegiate or NCAA college competitions, small bore rifle or the 22 long rifle competition is actually paired with air rifle shooting. So what you'd end up doing is you'd shoot a course of fire in small bore rifle. Typically it's like 60 shots for a possible 600 points. And then you're also going to... Now, is that timed?
Each position is typically timed. So you'd get, you're going to shoot prone, standing, and kneeling. In the past, that's been the order. This is the first year they're changing the order of, that's the thing about any, I think, formal competition stuff. You're always going to see rule changes and stuff. Now, this year, we're going to a different shooting order, but in the past, it has been prone, standing, and kneeling, and each position has had its allotted time. So you'd have like 20 minutes in prone to get 20 shots off.
Right, because the emphasis is on precision, so it's not like you have to fly through your 20 rounds. Yep.
I mean, you can, they kind of break it down per shot, because you're shooting 20 what's called record or scoreable shots in prone, and with them giving you 20 minutes, it's about a minute a shot. Sometimes you use more on one, sometimes you use less on the next, and then you end up, as long as you stay within that time frame, you don't have any penalty points or anything coming off. But then you'll shoot 20 shots in standing with like 40 minutes, and 40 minutes is an eternity, to shoot 20 shots, and then you'd get 30 minutes in kneeling. Well, there's your 60 shots for a possible 600. If you were to shoot what we call absolutely clean and not drop a 9. So you have that total score, and then you would go to the air rifle competition and shoot that competition. But at the collegiate level now, air rifle is only going to be shot in standing. Then you're going to have that score, and they're going to take the two and combine those two scores for an aggregate, and that's going to give you your aggregate score as an individual. And then they're going to take the 4 individuals from the team and put those scores together and have a team score then.
Now does time play any factor? Like you have, well, like the one position you have 40 minutes maximum, but if you do it under that, does that help you or not?
Nope.
Okay. There's only a penalty if you go over.
If you were to go over and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you can get done in let's say in standing you had 40, you can get done in 30, and it doesn't matter.
Okay. So, what are the ranges again? Like, let's say you're standing with small bore.
The distance you're going to shoot on indoor ranges is going to be 50 feet for the most part. The only time that you're really going to see
now is this all iron sights?
Yep.
Okay.
What they are is most people that have been around guns, they're semi familiar with like the peep sight rear, where you're looking through the little tiny hole in the rear sight. The only major difference in our sighting system is when you get to the front sight of the rifle, it's actually contained in like a little hood, and it's a complete circle in there. And then the targets at 50 feet are they're about the size of a quarter, maybe a little bit bigger than a quarter.
Wow.
And then within that quarter-sized black target, there's 10 scoring rings.
Jeez.
And then once you get to what would be considered a 10, it's not even a scoring ring. The 10 is actually just basically if you were to take the head of a pin and dip it in some paint and then dip it onto the paper, it's a dot is what the 10 is. And then to get the 10 for that particular shot, that dot has to be gone.
Wow. Can I use a bigger caliber?
Oh, it's funny how many students we start as competitive shooters that are like, wouldn't this be easier with a 308? I'm like, yeah, it probably would.
Now you said small bore is all 22 long rifle. There's no other rimfire rounds used?
No. Basically, the only variant, in that area of the sport is the fact that you try to find the ammo that likes your gun the best. You could shoot Federal. Maybe it shoots Federal better than it shoots Ely or something like that. But it's all 22 long rifle.
Now, let's go through that real quick. What are like the top tier brands for shooting this kind of precision? Right
now, I would say if you go right straight to the top, you're going to look at Ely. Now, Ely has several levels within their Ely brand, but if you go right to the top, it's like Ely Target or something like that. In my opinion right now, Lapua has got some very, very consistent, accurate small bore rifle rounds out. And then once you start getting down towards the middle area and stuff, that's still good ammo. It's still competitive ammo. The two brands and the two levels of Wolf are actually pretty good small bore ammunition.
So I can't use my Remington Golden Bullet from Walmart?
Well, you can, but it's probably just not going to be consistent enough to put you somewhere in the winner's circle.
Right. To even hit that quarter every size target every time.
I mean, I've always said, and I've done it. It was a couple summers ago, actually. I went to a prone tournament because I don't shoot position anymore. I just shoot straight prone tournaments. And I took a box of that Federal Auto Match it was fairly new at the time. And I'm like, I'm just going to see if it'll work, And it just, it was not the ammo that, number one, I don't think it liked my gun. And number two, I don't think it was meant for precision shooting.
Right.
But you're always looking for the holy grail of a cheap ammo that works really great in your rifle. And in all reality, if you're going to precision shoot, you're probably never going to find the brick of ammo that costs $15 that's going to give you the results.
Right. Now, let's talk a little bit about the small bore 22 rifles here. Now, they're all bolt action, just to be clear.
Yep, they're all single shot bolt action rifles.
So you load around into the chamber every time, is that right?
Yep, you're actually, what we try to teach shooters to do is actually seat it with their thumb, because if you don't seat it with your thumb, you can just take a round and like lay it, because there's no drop through where like a magazine would be or anything. So you could lay it in there and then let the bolt kind of follow it in and seat it. But what you want to do is you want consistency in everything you do. So if you can take your thumb and kind of seat it, then you close the bolt, you take one shot, you open it, and that's going to eject it. You're taking the next one, putting it in. So it's a slow process.
Now, I bring something else to mind. I hear about all kinds of regimens, cleaning and otherwise, before shooting a match like this. So is there any kind of cleaning regimen that you do, that you clean it, you shoot so many rounds, and then shoot your competition or something like that?
I think every competitive shooter's kind of got their own regimen.
I mean, is this kind of equivalent to wearing underwear for a week straight when you're? I
think so.
Have a tournament.
I'll often call it kind of voodoo.
Yeah.
It's kind of competitive shooter voodoo. But there's like two separate groups of people when you talk about firearms and the accuracy thing. It's like guys are like, never clean your rifle, because as soon as you clean it, now you gotta put so many rounds into it before it comes back in, And then there's the other side of guys that are like, they never go to a tournament without cleaning it first. They're starting every single tournament they shoot with basically a clean barrel. I think it's specific to the gun. I think that's another thing. Just like the ammo, you got to find out what your gun is how it's gonna work best.
Right. I suppose if you do one or the other, you're probably fine as long as you do it consistently.
Yeah, and I mean, I've always taught our competitors and stuff. I mean, there's always going to be a point where a rifle's going to get too dirty, and it has to be cleaned, But if you're one of those shooters and you truly believe your rifle shoots better dirty, then you got to be able to pick up on the fact is when does it hit the breaking point of, okay, now it's too dirty, because you start seeing shots that you're not being able to call, as, oh, that was a 10, but it was out here or something like that. Then it's got to be cleaned.
Right. Now, what brand of rifles are these? Are these brands that gun guys, like me would be familiar with, or?
You've probably heard of Anschutz.
Okay.
Because they actually have a line of like sporter rifle, hunting rifles and stuff. But the big one I would say is Anschutz. They're competitive, fully adjustable. If you look at them, they look like they came out of a space movie or something, because of how much adjustability there is to them, because that's one of the keys to the sport, is we really set the rifle up and fit it to the shooter. So Anschutz has always been there. Anschutz was the rifle, that was the Olympic rifle when I was a kid. And then now recently you've got Walther. That is a pretty good rifle. They have one particular model that, seems to be a pretty good precision small bore rifle. And then Fenwick bow. Now
that's one I haven't heard of.
Yeah, that's. I don't know if there's anything else out there that they've turned out other than,
Where are they out of?
I believe they're out of Germany somewhere,
okay.
And that seems to be the trend. I mean, most of the high notch, precision rifles for competition now doesn't come out of the United States. I mean, they're coming out of Germany with Anschutz and like Fenwick bow and stuff like that.
Now you said. It allows you to really fit the rifle to the shooter. What's involved in fitting a rifle like this to the shooter? What adjusts on it?
Well, the first thing that basically you can adjust is, unlike a sporting rifle that's got a sling swivel or something underneath on the stock, there's a rail that's actually cut into the bottom of the stock where your hands stop. Will actually, you'll be able to slide that back and forth to wherever you want it to gain that length of your arm or whatever. When you're shooting what we call unsupported prone, which is just, you're laying on the floor and you're on your elbows basically. Most of the adjustability comes at the rear of the stock. Most all the rifles have an adjustable cheek piece where you can loosen up a couple set screws or a couple Allen screws, and the cheek piece will rise and lower, for you to be able to put your head where you want it, so you're not stretching or anything like that. And then if you look at the back, there's what are called butt plate assemblies, and you'll actually see where there's a hook that goes underneath your arm when you actually shoulder the rifle and stuff. And that whole assembly is going to have multiple screws and set screws on it and stuff to where you're setting it to the shooter's position. Because basically what you want to do is just set up a position to where the shooter can be totally relaxed. They're not using, obviously in the standing position, there's some use of muscle, otherwise you wouldn't be able to stand. But like in prone, most top-notch shooters will say their prone positions are so comfortable they can fall asleep in position with the gun,
Wow.
with their face on the cheek piece and stuff. Because what you want to do is have that just completely relaxed position to where all you really got to worry about is activating the trigger. The sights are pretty adjustable too, other than like the known adjustments of windage and elevation and stuff. The sights are usually on a rail where you can, so you put your head where you want, just like how you would set up a scope, and then you would move the rear sight back to, the depth you'd want for your eye.
Okay, to get the proper eye relief.
Yep.
Okay. So give me a price range. I'm afraid to ask. Give me a price range on these high-zoot rifles. What do these cost?
I want to say the Fenwick ball right now, which, if I was going to buy a rifle that I thought was the rifle to buy right now, it'd be probably about $3,700. And then at that, the Fenwick ball, you're probably getting sights with it, but you can buy, right now, if I was to give a range, I would say you're looking at, whether it's Anschutz or the Walther or Fenwick ball, you're looking at anywhere between $2,800 and $3,400, without sights usually.
Now, does the college buy these, or does the student buy these?
The nice thing about us, and I think most collegiate programs and stuff, is they are budgeted. So the rifle team, as the collegiate club, every year they get to go and basically submit a budget and say we'd like this amount of money. It's budgeted like any other system where they lay out what they want, and so then there's a total, and then they're actually awarded a certain percentage of that, and then you get to spend it on what you want. But the trick is you've got equipment, you've got ammo, everything is got to be kind of figured out and planned out, and on top of travel, if you're in that team aspect of things.
Now, how's the ammo situation been for you guys this year?
Very tight. I fortunately just had one of the vendors that I do a lot of work with. He had a case on back order for us that just came in, so I'm going to be at least able to pretty easily start the season and stuff. But it's tight. The big problem I saw in the ammo, I don't know if you want to call it shortage, was all the places that would get ammo and then restrict the amount of the one buy. You can buy one box. I never really purchased ammo that way for the program. It was always by the case. Well, nobody's letting you buy a case anymore, so that made it a little tough. But we did get a case in. It was earlier this week, so we're going to start. But that's 5,000 rounds, and the university program, for sure, I can easily say that we go through 20 to 30,000 rounds a season.
Right.
If I look at both the competitive rifle team and the educational classes, that are also shooting twice a week.
So how has the sport changed over, the last 10, 20 years?
Since I was a junior and stuff, I think the biggest change that I've seen from being in the shoes as a junior shooter and then now is the equipment. and just the technology. I mean, yeah, we had adjustable rifles and we had the Anschutz rifles, but all of our rifles were all wood stocked rifles. The adjustability was still there in the butt plate and stuff like that. You're seeing less and less wood stocked rifles as the top of the line rifles now, where now you're seeing them all be aluminum stocked rifles. The whole thing looks metal. So I would say in the equipment, and then I think there's a direct correlation to that in the fact that scores are so much higher than when I was a shooter. When I was a shooter, the top of the pyramid as far as scores were out of that 600 possible was about, if you were in the 560s to 570s or so, you were probably one of the best junior shooters in the country. They've pushed that envelope now, and if you're one of the best junior shooters or best collegiate shooters in the country, you're in the mid to high 580s to almost 590s.
Now, is that because there's better rifles, or is it better ammo play a factor too, or?
In my opinion, I think it's both. I think at the same time they made strides in the rifle technology, and how well they're made and stuff. I think they did the same thing on the ammo side, because now, all these brands of ammo that I use now as a coach weren't even around when I was a shooter.
So have you seen a growth or decline over the last 20 years?
In just the sport in general?
Yeah.
I think it's growing. There's always a political aspect to it, but overall, I think it's growing. Where I think it's growing is where I think it needs to grow is in the junior shooting sports. That's one thing I teach in my educational class, is if the sport's going to continue and stuff, I'll actually ask the class, well, who do you think is the most important to the shooting sports, and basically the lifeblood of the shooting sports. And a lot of them will say juniors, which is right. It's technically right, but I've often taken it a step farther, and I'll tell them you're right, but I think there's a better answer to that question. And I tell them I think it's women and girls, and one of the reasons I think it's women and girls, especially junior girls in junior programs, and then female collegiate students and stuff, being exposed to it and stuff, because if you want juniors to continue in the sport, you've got to have mom basically on board to say at some point in their life cycle that, yeah, it's okay for my kid to be in the sport. And if you have mom, then you're going to get the junior with it.
Have you come across any of that, parents not being okay that their kid is doing this?
No, not really. In the junior side of the program and stuff, when we start the younger kids, there's occasionally where I'll have to meet with parents because they want to know more about the program before they just turn them loose with us. They want to know that it's a safe program and and how we do things and stuff like that. But it's funny because a lot of times what I'll see in the kids is dad's all fired up to have them start, and mom's a little more, we not sure. So it's a little bit of selling to mom sometimes. So
how widespread is the junior shooting program then?
You mean like as a whole, or our junior program?
Yeah, I guess when you say junior, what age bracket is that? Oh,
age bracket wise, we will typically start kids anywhere in that 8 to 9, 10 year age range, and the reason we do it that way, that's well before they're of, if you want to call it, the legal age to take hunter safety locally with us, for Wisconsin and stuff, because that age is actually 12. What we'll do is we'll start them, 8, 9, or 10, and if they get hooked on the sport and they like shooting and stuff, and they shoot through their couple years with us, by the time they're 12, 13, 14, we've got a junior that's going down the road of being able to be pretty competitive on the national level as far as like the competitive level. And then it's nice because I know most of our local hunter safety educators and stuff in the area, and I'll often get a call and say, we got one of your shooters, because they can see the fact that they've been in our program, and they've got the safety instilled in them and stuff, and they've been doing it that way for 3 years before they hit the hunter's safety class. And it's nice to have the hunter safety educators come back to our program and say, we could tell they were with you for 2 years already.
So these junior programs, where do they take place at? Do they take place at the university or where?
Yep, our junior program takes place in the university range. We basically actually have it set up to where the juniors practice on Monday nights, and then Tuesday night practice is a joint practice between the juniors and the collegiate team, and then Thursday nights are the collegiate team solo practice.
So does the collegiate team kind of act as mentors to the juniors?
Yep.
Okay.
And that's exactly how it's meant to be. It's kind of set up and stuff. They're supposed to kind of be doing that and stuff. They almost kind of fall into kind of a semi-assistant coaching role and stuff for the night that they're together. And it seems to work out pretty good.
Well, so what do you think the future of collegiate shooting looks like?
I think it's actually growing. I don't think you're going to see it go anywhere.
Now, do you see it expanding to more universities and colleges?
Yeah, I actually do, and I think it happens, quite often because I want to say just in the time that I've been running our program, I probably have taken three calls from other universities where the advisor person is working towards trying to set up their club, and trying to get ideas of how do we do things, do they let us store firearms on campus, or is there an issue with university funds buying ammunition and stuff? Those are the things I kind of read about in the collegiate news every now and then, is where a college ends up having an issue with the fact that funds are being used for ammunition and stuff like that. But I think it's growing. I think more colleges are putting, one of the three types of sports out there, whether it's clay target, pistol, or small bore. One of the biggest, I think, issues with having it grow, and whether a college is able to do it, is really facility. I think it would be tough, the small bore rifle and the pistol is probably the two tougher ones to kind of get off the ground, probably, because the small bore rifle, you're really looking at an indoor facility somewhere, and unless you've got a long-standing history of having one on campus like we do, it's going to be a tough sell to get them to build one, and if you can't do that, you almost need that local commercial range somewhere where you can rent the night or something like that. And if you don't have that, then usually the easier program, in my opinion, to probably get off the ground is a shotgun, the clay target one or something, because a lot of the outdoor local clubs around the country, is probably going to be pretty receptive to saying, yeah, we'll give you a night.
Right. Or you could just use a football stadium, but that might not go over well.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Chad, thank you so much for coming on the show. Or do you have any final thoughts?
No, not really off the top of my head. If people are interested in finding out more about collegiate shooting and the programs and stuff, the NRA has the link to the actual collegiate shooting programs, and there's a ton of links there to basically go in and find information on anything you want. They actually have one link that's actually, I believe, the shooting sports program directory or something, where you actually pull up a drop-down menu, and it tells you, you can pick a state, and it has in parentheses how many programs are in that state, and it tells you what program it is and whether it's educational or competitive, and it gives you contact info for whoever the advisor or the coach or whoever it is that's running the program.
Cool. Well, I'll link to those in the show notes, and these will be at gunguyradio.com/085. Well, Chad, I appreciate it, and good luck to you on this season of shooting and teaching.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Well, we'll talk soon.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
All right. Big thank you again to Chad. That was an awesome content there on collegiate shooting and junior shooting. And I didn't know about practically any of this, so very cool. And what else is very cool is that Chad and his buddy, I think it's Micah, are actually putting together a pilot for a precision shooting a podcast of sorts. So, look for that, and maybe the coming couple of weeks here, he's getting together the software and all the technical, mumble jumble squared away, and it should be good stuff. It'll be a podcast that focuses on this real high precision type of shooting that is way over my head. So I'd like to thank Duluth Trading Company for sponsoring this episode of Gun Guy Radio. That's right, you can go to Duluth Trading Company to maybe get some manly fall clothing like their legendary flannel with free swinging comfort. That's free swinging flannel. Or maybe, some shoreman's fleece, if that's something you're looking for. They've got some great fleece jackets and vests and even face masks. So very, very quality, high standards, very good company. And you can go to gunguyradio.com/Duluth to check those out. And if you do buy something from Duluth, please shoot me an email and let me know if they've served you well. Let me know if you're satisfied. Welcome back to the Gun Guy Radio Product Spotlight with our special correspondent, Paul Levy from Brownells. Hey, Paul.
Hi, how's it going?
It's going great. I'm so glad you could join us for another series of segments. And this week we're talking about the 5-star Firearms billet grade aluminum speed loaders. So these look pretty sweet.
Yeah, I wanted to bring on some parts that we talk about AR parts quite a bit. And this is one of those newer items that's for revolvers that's pretty innovative. I'm a sucker for beautifully machined products, as you probably heard on the past few segments. And these speed loaders from 5-star, they're all aluminum. As you can see here, they're not your typical just black speed loaders. They look pretty nice. They range from about $20 to $25, and they're for revolvers that you may not be able to find speed loaders for normally, like Taurus Judges, 500 Smith & Wesson revolvers. So
wait, I can speed load my shot shells?
Yes, you now can. Correct.
Awesome.
And they also have them for the typical Smith & Wesson, like 38s. Again, they're beautifully machined, smooth action. You load them, of course, and then they lock in place by turning it counterclockwise, the knob here, and you drop them in the gun, turn clockwise and release, and they're good to go. It's a smooth action. Again, amazingly well made, and they're for all those revolvers that you don't find speed loaders for, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, why don't you hold it up real close?
Oh, yeah.
Right in the center. There we go.
You can see a little bit of I don't know if you can see the action moving there, but there's nubs in each cylinder, or each chamber, I guess you could call them, and there's a little locking tab at the end on the end of the knob.
Well, I think this is great for anyone that wants speed loaders that matches the nice stainless steel finish on their revolver.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a great pick. So yeah, the Taurus Judge or your 500 Smith & Wesson.
Oh yeah, very cool products. And again, they're available for the more traditional standard revolvers that you might be carrying on a more regular basis.
Sure, like J-frames or
yep,
stuff like that.
Yep.
Well, a very neat product. Does 5 Star, do they make anything else, or is this pretty much their specialty?
This is the main item they produce. They do carry, we don't carry their loading blocks, but say if you have 60 of these at the range, they make nice little aluminum blocks that you can have them all set up in the block ready to go at the range, which looks really cool when they're all loaded up.
That's pretty awesome.
Yep.
So you can check those out at Brownells or go to gunguyradio.com/spotlight to find out more about the 5 Star Firearms revolver speed loaders. And they look great. So thanks, Paul, so much for sharing those with us. And we'll talk to you next week.
All right, talk to you then.
Well, that leads us out into the weekly giveaway. And this week, like the last several weeks, we are giving away $20 in Brownells gift cards. That's right. You don't have to do anything except enter our email newsletter subscriber list to become eligible for this awesome giveaway. So go to gunguyradio.com/winner to subscribe to this email newsletter, which I rarely ever send out. But when I do, it's always good content, and you'll be entered for life. So that's right. You only have to enter once. You'll be entered for life. You can win up to once a month. And this week, I drew a number randomly using random.org. And I came up with a name, Kyle Schnell. So Kyle Schnell, congrats. You won $20 of Brownells gift cards. All right. Well, we are to, the iTunes reviews. So I don't always read these, but, I'm going to read one or two here. Thank you all so much for helping us pass the 300 iTunes review mark. Very, very cool to have passed that. Very few firearms-related podcasts are even close to that, or I think there's a couple that have more than that, but not many. Buchsoplis 2, and I completely butchered whatever that is supposed to say, says, love the podcast, 5 stars. I listen to all the network's podcasts. You guys are all great, funny, informative, and I really appreciate all the work you do on this show. And let's see here. Mr. Stag8 says, freaking awesome. Hey guys, just thought I would write a review about your podcast, and I think it's great, informative, and just freaking awesome. I've learned a lot. I heard about gun guys from listening to the AR-15 podcast. Thank you. I subscribe to both and also Student in the Gun podcast. All caught up with the AR-15 and catching up with the other two as well. Good job and keep informing the masses. Oh, and this is from David Gonzalez from Lathrop, California. Well, very cool. I appreciate you guys leaving us reviews on iTunes. You can go to gunguyradio.com/iTunes to leave your very own review. And it really helps the show, helps other people find the show.
Ballroom jeans, fire hose work pants, and long-tail tees are 3 favorites among the men of Gun Guy Radio. Duluth Trading Company has perfected the art of clothing the manly man. If you want manly comfort that's trusted by these gun guys, go to gunguyradio.com/Duluth and check out the other manly essentials Duluth Trading Company offers gun guys like us.
And check out Ryan Cross, Hunter of Design, for all your graphics arts needs. Ryan Cross has designed much of the artwork for the Firearms Radio Network. HunterofDesign.com. Well, that about wraps up the show for this week. And again, check out the We Like Shooting podcast on the Firearms Radio Network. I like the We Like Shooting podcast, so it's Jake approved. And you can send your feedback to jake@gunguyradio.com. record a voicemail message using the SpeakPipe plugin on the upper right-hand side of Gun Guy Radio. And remember, this feedback you send in, we compile it into the monthly Gun Guy Radio Roundtable Google Hangouts, and we have a lot of fun talking about it. So I think they're pretty awesome episodes. I know the other guys enjoy doing them, so remember to subscribe to us on iTunes, gunguyradio.com/iTunes, or search for us on iTunes, or use the podcast app on your iPhone or iPad. Surprisingly, we have a lot of people listening on iPads. I looked at that stat the other day, and I was really, really surprised how many people listen that way. So thank you. Facebook.com/GunGuyRadio, GunGuyRadio.com for the show notes. And remember, join the NRA and the Second Amendment Foundation. And we don't talk about politics on Gun Guy Radio, but these two organizations will lead you in the right direction when it comes to that subject. And don't forget to check out the other shows on the Firearms Radio Network. Subscribe and listen for free at firearmsradio.tv/iTunes. Well, thank you so much for listening. I hope we improved your day a little bit, and we'll see you next week. Oh, and don't forget, we're trying to raise, we are raising $1,000 in 4 weeks to fund the hosting for the new Firearms Insider. So you can go to firearmsradio.tv/donate. And I thank you ahead of time for your contribution.
This has been a production of the Firearms Radio Network. For more great shows, please visit firearmsradio.tv.